Students, in the previous lecture, we have discussed about the different parts of our respiratory system. We have spoken about the different parts in human respiratory system. Now we will describe the process of respiration and the differences between the respiration and breathing. So, the process that involves the production of energy with the oxygen or without oxygen is called respiration, and it is a biochemical process which eliminates carbon dioxide and water. So the process of respiration involves the production of energy, and how energy is produced by the use of oxygen. Maybe without oxygen a little less energy will be produced, and it is a biochemical process. So it takes place in the living organism, so it is biochemical. It will give out water and carbon dioxide. So water in the form of vapor. Now the cells will perform their respiration inside the cytoplasm, and so they are called as cellular respiration. The process is cellular respiration because the steps of the respiration, that is when the food is broken down into still smaller particles, that can be called as respiration to give us energy. So the process will take place in the cytoplasm, and so inside the cells it will take place. So it is cellular respiration. Now normally we breathe in and breathe out, that is breathing, but respiration is going to the cellular level. So food will react with oxygen, give out carbon dioxide, water and energy. Now we will see the difference between breathing and respiration. Breathing is the mechanism by which the organisms obtain oxygen from the air and release carbon. Simple. So release carbon dioxide. That means when oxygen is taken in and carbon dioxide is given out, that is simple mechanism is called breathing. This is physical process. Normally we take in air, give out air. This is physical, and lungs are involved in it. Now respiration, what is this? This includes breathing as well as oxidation of food. This is very, very important. Oxidation of food is necessary step which is seen in respiration, and it is both physical plus biochemical process. Here lungs and mitochondria both are involved. If you can see here that the breathing is the mechanism by which organisms obtain the oxygen from the air and release mechanism, that means just mechanically taking in and giving out. This is a physical process and it takes place in the lungs. Respiration includes breathing as well as oxidation of the food as physical and biochemical process, and it takes place in the lungs and mitochondria both. Now if you can see in this page, you can see that a proper reaction is represented here, wherein you can see what is happening during respiration. Let us see here. See, glucose, which is a 6-carbon compound, is present in the cytoplasm. Where from this glucose has come after the digestion of the carbohydrates, the end product is what? Glucose. So this has come to the cytoplasm and they are broken down into 6-carbon compound is broken down into 3-carbon compound, plus energy is released here inside the cytoplasm. Now what happens? Now the next stage is this 3-carbon molecule will give out the different compounds in presence of oxygen or in absence of oxygen. Now when there is an absence of oxygen, suppose in yeast, what happens? Ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy is produced. So this 3-carbon pyruvate is reduced to 2-carbon molecule, that is ethanol. Then if again in the absence of oxygen in our body, that is in the muscle cells, if there is the breakdown of this pyruvate takes place in the absence of oxygen, what will be formed? Lactic acid and energy. So this is also in the absence of oxygen. But what happens in the presence of oxygen, and where? In the mitochondria, carbon dioxide, water and energy is produced. So you can see in this schematic form that glucose is changed into pyruvate in the cytoplasm. Then in the body of the yeast, if it is yeast, then it will be without oxygen, then it produces ethanol or ethyl alcohol. In our muscles, it produces lactic acid, and in the aerobic respiration, wherever oxygen is present, then in the mitochondria this reaction will continue: carbon dioxide, water and energy. Now energy that is released during the respiration and is used that is formed into a molecule which is called adenosine triphosphate or ATP, and which is the energy giver of the cell. That is, it is the power that we get from the mitochondria. So that is why we call that mitochondria is called the powerhouse of the cell, because ATP is the energy source. It gives the fuel to activate all the cells to perform all their functions. So ATP is broken down and energy is liberated, and the other reactions can proceed inside the cells. So let us see here. So you can see energy in what form, that is ATP is produced. ATP is adenosine triphosphate, T for tri. So how it forms? ADP plus inorganic phosphate, with the help of energy they form ATP. ADP is adenosine diphosphate, D for di. D is di, means 2 phosphate, and then again 1 phosphate is added, this forms ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So ATP is used for various activities. So many activities are there where ATP can be used. So in the body, inside the mitochondria, the energy currency is produced for most of the cellular processes, and the energy released during the process of respiration is used to convert the ADP to ATP, which is the energy currency of the cell. So this energy is used for making what? ATP. And this gives the energy fuel for all the functions of the body. So this gives a charge to all our cells to do the various functions. So this was all about the production of ATP, and we have discussed what happens in the presence of oxygen and absence of oxygen. Now, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is what? This is in the presence of oxygen, and anaerobic respiration is in the absence of oxygen. Now, plant exchange the gases through the stomata, as you all know, and see, cells are always filled with air, because there are intercellular spaces. What are these intercellular spaces? Spaces between the two cells are called as intercellular spaces. So they are also filled with air, and carbon dioxide and oxygen are exchanged through the stomata. They can go into the cells and they can go away from them out into the air. So diffusion of gases can take place according to the situation, according to the environmental condition and what the plant needs at that time. So what happens during the daytime? Carbon dioxide is taken in and oxygen is released by the green plants. When there is photosynthesis, what happens? The carbon dioxide is used up and oxygen is released. And during the night, what happens? Carbon dioxide is given out, as there is no photosynthesis during the day. So maximum elimination of carbon dioxide takes place during the night, and oxygen is released in the daytime. So this is happening in the plants in the daytime and the night time, and the location is what? The stomata, the opening of the leaves that is present in the plants. So they help in diffusion of the gases. Now for the animals also, there are different organs that are developed for the taking in of oxygen from the environment and giving out of carbon dioxide. And we, the terrestrial animals, we breathe in oxygen in the atmosphere, but animals that live in water will use the oxygen that is dissolved in water. And this, I think, everyone can understand that water present in the that is water, and along with it there is oxygen. So in the water there is very low amount of oxygen than compared to the air. So in the aquatic animals, the rate of breathing is quite faster, because dissolved oxygen is much less in water than that is present in the air. So fishes will always open their mouth and then force the water to the gills, where the diffusion of oxygen will take place. So you can very well understand that plants and animals have evolved various mechanisms for getting the oxygen. Now what we feel, that is, we are staying on land, we are terrestrial, organisms. We get the oxygen from the atmosphere. Then oxygen is absorbed by different organs in different animals. Different animals have different body parts for taking in the air and giving out of carbon dioxide. So if there is unicellular, if there is no more cells, that means if the organism is one cell, then one cell will perform this exchange of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide. Only one surface will be there, and only membranes will allow the gases to move in and go out. Similarly, in multicellular organisms, different organ system will be there. Like one is with us, that is respiratory system, which has various organs to help us to respire, to help us to take in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. So different organisms and different plants will have different ways of taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. Here you have to focus on the aquatic organisms, where you can understand that aquatic organisms breathe faster than us, because dissolved oxygen is much less in the aquatic situation. That means in water the dissolved oxygen is much less, fairly low compared to the amount of oxygen in the air. So they take in water through their mouths and force it to the gills, mainly the fishes, where the dissolved oxygen is taken up by the blood. This is the main highlighting situation here in the aquatic organisms. So aquatic organisms have specialized way of breathing. Terrestrial organisms get lots of oxygen, and they have the proper body structure or organs to take in the air. There are passages, like we have windpipe, we have bronchi, bronchioles, and we have lungs, and the alveoli, where exchange of gases takes place. So today we have discussed about respiration and breathing, aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So aerobic respiration is taking in of oxygen, and anaerobic breathing in the absence of oxygen. So much more energy will be produced in presence of oxygen. Very less energy will be produced in the absence of oxygen. So aerobic is in the presence of air, anaerobic is in the absence of air. And in the previous video we have already discussed about the respiratory system of human beings. So I hope you all have understood about the respiration and breathing, aerobic and anaerobic respiration.